going through this game, we will notice immediately that even though it seems things are going fine, the computer will disagree with you, and your opponent will disagree with you. You don't know who is correct, and since you're playing with a human, the objective evaluation of the position almost doesn't matter at all. And anyway, the game was a total mess. Finished in a time scramble with my opponent losing on time, while I was completely unsure what was happening, and I misjudged the position by that point anyway. And it just feels like it is extremely challenging at this point for me to know what's going on in a chess game, which I think is a bit awkward considering how well I usually am at doing this thing. It's also interesting that, I lost, since this game was played about a week ago, like 100 points on chess. I did not expect that to happen. But anyway, the way it's continuing now, maybe I've stabilized. From the opening, which is a English opening, I'm not sure exactly which variation. We can see a couple of moves here. Typical play in the center, a different setup for black than just typically going for e5 or c5, but with d6. Sometimes you castle, fianchetto the bishop, sometimes you play the bishop out to e7. It's a good setup, of course. I'm not sure how modern it is, but it's a good setup in general to prevent white from simply dominating inside of the opening over here. And I'm choosing the knight g2 variation to keep the center open. Black wants to play for d5 at some point. And stopping it will probably benefit white, but stopping it, counteracting, trying to fight for control of the center. In the English, you typically want to dominate the center instead of sitting around here. As you will see in this game, black develops normally, and with his piece setup, he pushes for d5. My opponent pushes for d5, which is a very normal plan. In fact, I think if you switch on the computer, it's even better for black now. Black has the initiative because of white's rather passive development and only a single pawn to attack the center as well, to contest for the center. White has c4, black has c5, e5, and therefore it's very complicated, and black should be happy with this opening, castling, queen d7, perhaps exchanging the bishop. But I think black had a very nice idea in this game, which I completely missed out on. We exchange, and I play a3, most common move apparently according to Lichess on their database, and it's not good. You're supposed to play f4, which in retrospect makes a lot of sense, attacking the center. That's also another reason, I guess, why you play knight g2, that you can push for f4 without blocking your knight in, or something like knight f3. And a3 is quite slow. He doesn't contest the center, and if you're going to play b4, then you have to also play rook b1, and then you notice your knight might be a bit vulnerable, and it's just not so nice, is it? You have to be quick, because black, as you will see in this game, will play a5, which is something I was worrying about. Exactly, because e3, g3, so f4 makes for a nice kingside attack. You see many of these things from the King's Indian. Complicated stuff. Exchanging castles. Queen c2, another move that doesn't really make too much sense that I played, but the idea is to play rook d1 to keep an eye on the knight if I play b4, to look at c5, but it just feels like white doesn't have a real plan of what to do after these few moves, and black very quickly, I don't know how quick, after 40 seconds, plays f5, and you can almost see that white is not prepared for this type of position. I need to analyze this type of plan more concretely, but at the same time, you know, even if we are supposed to play bishop d2 or some other move, let's say knight here for f4 or even f4, it just feels like black has the initiative on the weak pawn because of the strong center, f6, and now around this type of situation you need to manage, but I don't think white should be losing. Materials equal, but he has to defend passively. And the game continues. f5, and this is not an effective plan at all. Completely overlooked queen d6, and now black is absolutely ready to win the game. b3, passive move. I did not implement b4. b5, knight b2, very cagey stuff. Looking at the pawn on d3, looking at the c4 square, if I can chase away this pawn, but I think it's too late, you know, it's too slow, no development has really taken place, and black has all of these pieces supporting the attack on the king side. I mean, if this is the most active position you can get from the black side, there's a lot of questions you have to answer. Now my opponent went back. You can play a6, queen takes, rook takes. Oh, who knows? The pawn's hanging. Yeah, I wonder why is a6 actually recommended? Good question. Or is it? Where is it recommended? Yeah, it is recommended. Yeah. Either way, let's just look at the game. I thought I was completing my development. Yeah, I already knew I was in a very bad position. I took away a square from my knight, but at least it looks like you are supposed to be able to play on from here. Turns out that's not the case. So f4, you are getting very worried here. And my idea, of course, lining up the queen and a bishop for some faint attempt at counterplay. But there's nothing. There's just nothing going on in this position. But okay, he makes a mistake. It's not too serious, but you are wanting to attack, and now you take away all the pressure. Bishop f7, I don't even know what's going on here. Rerouting the bishop, probably not very helpful. And I have nothing to do here, but computer suggests before, and then you have something. This is a very strange position. You know, it's that type of thing that you see Gotham chess playing, where you're not especially advantageous as white, but you have to maneuver and sometimes get a good position, but it backfires easily. King g2, because again I have dreams of attacking on the king side because I want to escape from this nightmare, and our time is getting low. My opponent, I can't explain this, but either way, attacks the rook, attack the bishop, and maybe wants to exchange, right? Now with a suggestion like knight d1, I don't know. Bishop f3 is a total blunder, as you will typically see in these kind of formations where you venture to a bishop, exchanging this bishop and your opponent keeping that light squid bishop. Spells disaster. But this is how bad the position is already. What can you do? There's no real suggestions at this point. So rook takes f3, and your king's exposed, and you are getting mauled, and everything you thought you're using to defend your center is collapsing. And white can resign. There's nothing. Now, where were we? Before, he gives me the square, but I don't think it helps me too much. Now there's possibilities of exchanging, but it's such a messy position. Time is too low apparently, and both of us don't seem to understand what's going on. You just give a check, you know, you have to make a move, maybe that will take a lot of time, but you can't exchange the bishop. You have to move the bishop away, it's being attacked. You have to keep an eye on your f2 square, so you just push f4. I mean, what else can you do? Then at least they defend it by 2 pawns and a bishop. And again, maybe there's some vague belief attacking diagonals with bishops, and he removes it. And again, like I said, you know, nothing makes sense in this game. You think they open up and now you can attack, but look at what happens. They open up, they can now attack you, and maybe it's not even the best thing, but the bishop's exposed, everything's collapsing. You have to struggle, but for what? It seems vain. Like, sometimes nothing connects together. Bishop c3, so it's, you know, bluffing all the way, feint, deceit, warfare, in the proper sense. Queen f5, you know, white's position is long ago collapsed. So you try. Just make some moves. And I'm really dead. And for some reason my opponent lost on time. With 50 seconds and then nothing. It just does not make sense. And he's completely winning in this position. I don't think I pre-moved something like Queen F2, Queen G2, and no move. Lessons learned from this game? I am not sure. I have to review the specific line at least. I have to think about the middle game strategy of why you put your pieces in this way. I have to figure out why a setup like this, you allow the pawn to be taken after playing something like a6. What this activity means for black. But there's no endgame. Both players struggling in the middle game. And I'm not even sure it's so difficult to understand what's going on here, but for me, even a week later, it is very difficult